going to bring in a segment after discussing a game called Scratching the Itch. And that sounds really gross. But basically what we're saying is, if you love this game, what is a more modern game you could play that scratches that itch? And I have a game picked out to compare to Sonic the Hedgehog. We will cover that after we discuss Sonic. So, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, man. We're talking the Blue Blur himself, the OG Sonic the Hedgehog, released in June of 1991. And first off, did you own this game as a kid?
Yes, absolutely.
Did your copy come with a not for resale on the sticker on the front?
Probably.
It's the only one I've ever seen. So if you look at the episode, if you're listening to this, look at the episode artwork. That's the cartridge. Is it says not for resale? Because remember, it was a pack-in title.
Yeah.
And I think you could buy it on its own, but it came with our Sega Genesis when we bought our Sega Genesis. Is that how you got it too, or?
I think so. Yeah. I think it was one of the games that came with it.
Yeah. And so, did you know anything about Sonic before you started playing?
I don't believe so. No, like not
Same
at all.
Here. Yeah, no, man. I think a friend had it. Like, I was actually a friend of my sister, so he was in high school maybe, and he started playing it, and I was watching it, and I'm like, this is incredible. And he played through and he beat it and everything like that. He taught me the cheat codes. Remember the cheat codes for this game?
I actually don't. I don't think I ever used cheat codes for this game.
There's two of them. So there's a cheat code to do a level select. And it's just up, down, left, right at the main menu when he pops in the dun, 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 dun. And then if you go up C, down C, left C, right, you get what's called debug mode. And what that means is that you can go in and kind of basically break the game, and you can change into different sprites and like add enemies and rings and whatever you want throughout the game to like awesome. Basically cheese the level. And then you can like teleport through the level. There's so many things you can do and just break the game. So that was what I loved doing as a kid, because I felt it was cool, right? Now, it got boring really fast, but anyway, so, and then, like I said, you have level select as well if you want to skip through some levels, which, it's not a long game, so you don't really have to. But, dude, I mean, I tell you what, because you go from that start menu right into, you hit start, and boom, you're in Green Hill Zone. And to this day, that's Sonic, right? I mean, it's the one... It's not the only level that keeps getting brought back, but let's be honest, it's basically the only level anyone knows.
It's the level that gets brought back, like every single game.
Yeah, like if you were to say, give me this, like for Mario, right? If someone said, hey, give me the Mario theme song, it's dun 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 dun. That was only in Mario 1, but it's what everyone knows, and that's what they keep bringing back. For this, it's the Green Hills song, right? It's been remixed. Well, that's the victory. That's the victory. That's the victory. It's also the Star Shield. Remember, like the invincibility shield.
Much
it was
faster.
Because this. Let me tell you, folks. I was gonna try to do this in a compliment sandwich where I start with the good, I go with move to the bad, and go with the good. I don't know if I could stick to it because I got thoughts all around. But one thing I will say this game has going for it in spades is the amazing soundtrack.
Dude, the music in this game is just incredible. It's impressive how well they can make music on the Sega Genesis. Like, it blows my mind all of the time.
So I feel like when you're comparing it to to Nintendo, it's no contest. This obviously is superior. But like Super Nintendo, you could argue that they had a better soundboard or whatever to make more like realistic, like orchestral sounds. And so if you listen to songs like from video games, you can very easily determine what system you're listening to it from, right? Between like Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis. But there's something about that Sega. It's like a crunchy rock. I don't even know how you describe it. It sounded badass, right? It was cool to listen to Sega music and sound effects too. You know what I mean? There's something about it, man. And this game was like the epitome of. I mean, it's not though, because there's so many good Sega songs. But like, this is like peak Sega Genesis soundtrack, whatever you want to call it. And it's one of the. So there's certain. I take it back. This and like Sonic 3, if I were to hear a level song, I could probably tell you what it's from. Sonic 2, it's probably the one I actually played the least, even though I like it better.
That's crazy, because it probably has the greatest song, and that's the Chemical Plant Zone in Sonic 2. It's so good. Yeah.
No, and that's a good point. I guess there really are oh god, they're all so good.
They're all good.
No, I mean, and the thing is, like, choosing a favorite Sonic soundtrack is like picking a favorite kid. Like, I have one, obviously, but no.
Whoa!
Just kidding. Oh, man. So, all right. I wrote down some notes here, and so I want to talk. they're really stream of consciousness, so apologies if this kind of loses the focus. But the first thing I want to point out here is that Green Hill Zone really showcases what you could do with Sonic and what made him different than Mario, right?
Right. Yep.
Like you could cruise through, you went loop the loops, you could just literally let him go for a minute and like just watch the show almost, right? It was really cool to watch, and then you're back in control, and the level just all three, because it's 3 acts, right? It's basically 3 levels,
yep,
three levels within
3 acts per zone.
Yep, and that was what also kind of set it apart from the later titles. They would switch to 2 acts starting with the next one. Mm-hmm. So this one had 3. But they flowed. It flowed really well. And the boss battle at the end was great with Robotnik swinging the big ball around. It just looked so cool. Then you get to Marble Garden Zone, and all of a sudden, I don't think once in a level can you really pick up any kind of speed.
No, yeah, I was going back and I was watching a gameplay video of it, and I was just like, man, for the blue blur, he's quite slow through some of these areas.
And what the problem is, like, if it was a Mario game through those levels, it would feel great because they're well-designed platform levels.
Yeah.
But if you're not running as Sonic the Hedgehog, the controls kind of suck in this game, at least. I will say they either in the later titles, they either improved his gameplay as far as like jumping and platforming, but they also the level design is more consistent with what you're able to do with Sonic anyway. So maybe that's probably what it is, because there's a few things about this first game, gameplay-wise, that they absolutely fix later. One, there's no spin dash in the OG Sonic.
Right.
Which
no spin dash
it's an
whatsoever.
Iconic move. And the spin dash is so important because if you're trying to build up speed from nothing, in the original Sonic, you got to backtrack and then try to find like a hill to get some speed going. You know what I mean? Whereas in later Sonic games, you spin dash, boom, you're flying. And that's perfect because it gets you back right into what you want to be doing, which is going as fast as hell as the blue blur. That's the point of the Sonic games. So anyway, not only can you not spin dash, it's very slippery trying to platform. And not only that, there's instances where you have to like basically progress through the level and you'll see obstacles come out of nowhere. And I hate that in game design, where like it was in level 3, Labyrinth, I think it's called Labyrinth Zone, where it's like half underwater, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And I'm walking through, and all of a sudden you've got these little driller guys popping out of the ground, and like before I even progress all the way, like I'm on the edge of the screen and I don't know what's coming next, and a guy pops out in front of me and I lose all my rings. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Because you can't see it. That's in my opinion, that's bad design. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, what are your thoughts?
I mean, again, it's the first Sonic game, so like
it is,
and that's cut them a little bit of slack.
And I am, and they do improve it, and that's the thing. Yeah,
and they did improve it. But also, like, hey man, if you're running really fast and you're not looking so far ahead of you, you're gonna run into shit.
I guess. But the whole point, well, and I guess you're kind of spoiled by Green Hill Zone because you don't have as much of that in that first one.
Yeah.
Like if every level was like that, the whole thing would be like, this is fucking glorious. Like you're just cruising. But most of the, now I did notice this, and I don't know if you noticed this pattern. It felt like every other level was built for Sonic's speed. And
it
then
does seem like they kind of go back and forth, and I think that's them trying to find their identity. Yeah. As a a headstone character.
I think so, yeah. So
because it was definitely influenced by Mario. Like they wanted an answer to Mario was the platformer, so they borrowed some elements from it, but maybe didn't polish them well enough.
Well, and that's the thing. Yeah, they're trying to see what works, what doesn't work. I mean, if you think about it, the exploration, it almost kind of like was a cross between Mario and almost like, not exactly, but like Metroid, where like there was multiple paths to get through. You could explore and find hidden secrets, which you sometimes had in Mario World, which really this was competing with it. But Super Mario World, if you think about it, was pretty much left to right? Like there was no point in going back necessarily, except for maybe a rogue pipe that you could go down.
Right.
In Sonic, you could take a different path every time through a level and still not find all the secrets. Whereas, like, you could back through, and that's the other thing too, is Sonic games, especially the first one, you have a shit ton of time. Like, there's still a timer, but it's not like I think Mario is like 3 or 4 minutes or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like, you have at least 10 minutes in Sonic. They want you to explore. And so if you go back through, you'll find like hidden walls where you can go through to get rings and an extra life or whatever. So it's kind of like, did you ever play the Metroid games back in the day?
I did. I never got into Metroid, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Like,
and I didn't until I was older. But what it, like I said, what it reminded me of was, again, you're able to kind of find all these secrets to get extra power you up before you get to the end of the level. But also the other more basic thing is that Sonic's jump attack was his weapon. Like, you could jump on top of enemies, obviously, but kind of like it was called the screw attack, right? Which I think is like is that a move and smash even for Samus?
Yeah. That's her up special recovery.
Exactly. So like basically it's just a jumping screw attack where your whole body is a weapon when you're rolled up into a ball. So if you can kill any enemy that will die from you, like well, there's different ones. Some enemies have like spikes on top, so you got to be strategic about it. But for the most part, you can hit them in the air like you are the weapon, which is kind of cool. Mm-hmm. Which is again kind of different than Mario. But and it's funny because you mentioned they wanted to compete with Mario. Do you remember did you ever hear the story about how Sonic became the mascot?
I saw a little bit on that today, but don't know it enough to spout it off.
Yeah, well, and don't quote me. I'm not like, but from what I heard is they had like a contest at the office. Basically, it was like, all right, whoever can create this character we're going to use will win like. It was like $10,000 or something like that. And so I forget who, it was just somebody that randomly made a blue hedgehog, I think. And there was a few different characters that they kind of workshopped, which I think honestly were the basis for future characters they would use in other Sonic games. Because, he gets all these animal friends in the later games too.
Yep.
So, all right. So going back to it, there's one other thing that drives me up a wall with this first game is, how in most video games, when you take damage, and in this case, you lose all your rings. You're blinking, so you're like invincible for half a second. For the most part, including when you like go on lava, like you can walk on lava invincible for like 2 seconds and give you a chance to find safety, jump on a platform, whatever. The only thing that does not work within this game, and I don't remember if it was the true for the rest of them, but if so, it's bullshit, but I don't think it is if you got hit and landed on spikes, whether you're invincible or not, instant death. You were dead. And there were so many instances in where I would get hit by a guy, get knocked back, so I have no control, into spikes, dead. Like, there's no recovery. And so you got to be extra careful of that. It drove me insane.
Just get good, Dan. God.
Well, and I did. In fact, I did. It was a while back, but I played. I used, I haven't in a while, but I have our YouTube channel, Generation S. I did a series called No Continues, where I would try to play through games, and one of them was the original Sonic the Hedgehog. And in my head, I was like, "Fuck, I'll just cruise through this. This will be," because I don't beat most of the games that I play on that series, and so I'm like, "Oh, this will be a good one for my ego," No, I died in like level like. It was like Spring Yard Hill Zone, like World 3. I died. And I'm like, this game kicked my ass. Yeah. Because this is a hard... I never thought the Sonic games were hard until I went back and played Sonic 1.
It's a little difficult.
But I think it's because of the gameplay polish that's not there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, especially if you're used to playing like the later games and stuff. You're a little bit spoiled. You don't have the
100%. Like, I can beat Sonic 3, I can beat Sonic and Knuckles without ever dying game over one time, and I'll have like 30 lives by the end of it. This, I was like literally like wasting time trying to find rings to get at least one extra life every time because I knew I was going to need them for the later levels because it gets hard real quick. So let's talk about another kind of iconic, like, I don't know, theme of Sonic games, the special stage, right? So
don't get me started on this special stage. Oh my God.
So
it is comically bad.
Yeah, it is. It was now again, and to use your words against you, Derek, this was the first time. So
I agree. I mean, sure, but also like, where did we go? What are we doing? Like, for those that don't know, for whatever reason, when you get over 50 rings and make it to the end of the level, a giant golden ring appears that you can jump into, and it'll teleport
if you make it fast enough. By the way, just for the if you run past the, you gotta go. Oh, I gotta go back and jump into it, otherwise I run away. Yeah. Anyway, continue.
You get teleported into what I can only describe as a weird pinball machine type thing where you are in your ball form and you are just rolling around as this game rotates, and there's a weird background with like a geometric fish or a geometric bird for whatever reason
tripping out.
But on top of that, not only is it just weird like that, it's also a maze that you have to like kind of navigate through to find like the center where you can find a Chaos Emerald, or you fall into these goal areas, which don't let that deceive you. That is not the goal. Don't go there. You want to get the Chaos Emeralds.
Yes. Although, here's the thing that I have an issue with this game again, and it's comparing it to future titles. What the fuck do the Chaos Emeralds do in this game? Nothing other than a different credit scene at the end.
Yeah, you stop Robotnik. That's. I mean,
it's literally the only thing it does, and you don't even stop. Like, it doesn't affect gameplay. There's no extra levels. It's literally, hey, here's a bonus. Honestly, my reason for trying to go into these special stages was to earn continues, because I think if you get 50 rings in the special stage, you earn a continue.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so like that's what I was going for. Fuck the Chaos Emeralds. I was getting as many rings as I could, and then if I got zapped out of it from there, whatever. Because there's nothing to it. Like, now in future games, like Super Sonic is one of the coolest things of any video game ever. And starting with Sonic 2, you could get there. And quite frankly, Sonic 2 had the better special stages. Not my favorite special stages for Sonic, but way better than what you have in this weird ball tripping whatever it is. Like, it was, I don't even know, man. Now, I will say the sound, the music in the special stages is just chill and relaxing. But again, I think there's some nostalgia there too for me. But
yeah, so, if there's one thing we're coming out of this, all of the music throughout the entire game is just completely solid.
Yeah, by the end, we'll assess if it's one of those games that either holds up or belongs back in 1991 or whatever. And yeah, I think music-wise, 100% will absolutely stand the test of time. All right, so I think we're kind of in the middle of the shit sandwich. Let's keep going here. Underwater movement in this game is some of the worst of any video game ever, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta slow down the blue blur somehow, right?
Yeah, but you can't even like swim like with Mario.
No, you don't swim.
I mean, I'll say this, and I'm not the only one to feel this way, but like underwater levels in most games, except for maybe like Donkey Kong Country, kind of suck. They're not good unless the entire game is underwater, and there are some games like that are pretty fun. Underwater movement is terrible, and it should not be more than like a fraction of a level, right? Like Mario, there's a couple levels that it feels a little too long, but for the most part, he gets it right. You can get through underwater levels pretty quickly, and quite frankly, it's not terrible to control Mario in water because he can swim, and once you get used to the momentum and the flow of it, it's fine. Here, you're literally just Sonic moving underwater, which
you're trying to run underwater.
And you can't, and not only that, but unlike Mario, he cannot hold his breath forever and has to find little air bubbles, and when he doesn't, and you hear that and you just start freaking the fuck out, it's so stressful.
If you want to induce a heart attack in somebody, just start playing the I'm about to drown music in Sonic, because it is awful.
And it doesn't matter. It's so stressful. You know what I used to do? This was kind of fun too, because back then I didn't care. If I was near like the surface and I knew that if I jumped up I could get air, I used to try to time it to where I'm going to stay under, because what happens is basically when it starts that song and you get air, like it resets to the level song.
Right.
So I try to time it where I'm about to run out of air, but the song doesn't start yet, so that when I jump out of the water, the song just reboots on its own. And I'm probably one of the only one that ever did that, but I used to try to mess with that. Because quite frankly, there's nothing else fun about swimming in water in Sonic games, and they never do better with it. Honestly, the only thing they make better about it in future Sonic games is they minimize the water. And I hate to say it, but Sonic 2, which is a vastly superior game, Chemical Plant Zone sucks a lot of the times with those water pieces, but it's still a lot less than you get in this first game.
Yeah, the water level is, I mean, like you said, in most games, water levels are terrible, and they definitely went, hey, let's make a terrible water level. It succeeded.
Well, and that's what I'm like. Were they just really trying to copy that Mario formula? Like, well, Mario's got water. We can do water. That's fine. Yeah, Phil, can you just throw it? Yeah, just slow him down. No, slow him down. No, you don't need to run anymore. No, hold on. You need an ego check. Yeah.
Let's make you try to time, this walkthrough between spikes from the floor and the ceiling. And
that's right. Yeah. And like spikes and that was the other thing. Oh god, remember the spikes that jet out from the wall and you have to time your jumps to avoid.
Yep.
Fuck those, man. Oh my god. Pissed me off. Anyway, let's see here. We talked about, because I wrote this down. We talked about how spikes are a cheap death because they just knock you back into them and you can't do anything about it. Dude, let's talk about, and again, it's the first of its kind, but by this point we also did have Mario World and everything that came before it. I am disappointed with the amount of power-ups in this game. For somebody who's trying to compete with Mario, you got 2. You got 3, technically, and the only one that doesn't really suck is like, well, no. The shield and the stars, like the invincibility. Are fine. The invincibility is temporary. I get it. You don't want to cheese a level. The shield is fine. It doesn't do anything for you other than give you an extra hit, which, again, if you have rings, what's the difference? Right? Honestly. Unless it just lets you hold on to your rings so that you can amass more rings before you take damage and lose them all and risk not getting an extra life.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about the speed shoes because they sound really cool, but not... There's like one level in the entire game where you can actually use them and enjoy them. Because,
and it's the
again...
first level.
And it's the first fucking level. So if you can't go fast regular in most of the levels because you have to platform, what the fuck are speed shoes gonna do for you?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
You're gonna lose control because then you're extra specially fast and you're gonna fuck it up every time. So no, fuck the speed shoes. Oh god. Sorry. I was not expecting to get that excited.
Let it out,
that.
man. Let it out.
God, I just got so mad playing this game again. And I didn't want it. I'm mad at myself because I was so excited to talk about a treasured memory from my childhood. Turns out it's a bunch of bullshit. You know? There's not a lot of games, like for the most part, games that I enjoyed as a kid, I'm like, I still have nostalgia for. The more I play this game, the less nostalgia I have for this particular game. Not Sonic, just this game.
Yeah.
Because it was done so much better later, and we got so spoiled by it, so that there's, for example, I can play Super Mario World and have a great time. I can then go boot up Super Mario Bros. 3 on the Nintendo and have a really great time. That's my favorite Mario game of all time. I can go play Super Mario Bros. 1 and say, this game is fucking awesome, and I'm still gonna play this. It holds up. You can't do that with Sonic 1, in my opinion. It does not deserve the respect of an elder like a Mario Brothers 1 would.
That's fair. That's fair.
I mean, listen, what are your thoughts? Because I feel like I've absolutely shit on this game. If you disagree, that's totally fine. I'm just curious.
I need to go back and play it. I will say that I dabbled with it with the re-release. They have like a mobile phone version. It's awful.
Yes.
Playing Sonic on a touch screen is the worst experience ever. I need to go back and play the original. It's been a long time, so I can't really fully weigh in on it. But with that said, if I were to go back and play the original, I don't think I'd even go all the way back. I think I'd probably start right at Sonic 3, or at the very least, I would probably slap that cartridge on top of Sonic and Knuckles and play Sonic 1 that way. Because
Sonic and Knuckles in Sonic 1 doesn't do anything.
Yeah, but it's still cool. Yeah, it does. It does. It lets you play.
No. That was a feature they did later. You couldn't do anything with Sonic 1. Sonic 2, you could bring in Knuckles. Oh. Sonic 1 didn't do anything.
I thought it added Tails and Knuckles to it, but maybe not.
No, it did not. It was a crock of shit because I tried it as a kid and I was pissed because it didn't do anything. Now, they have since re-released Sonic 1 to have Knuckles, where you can basically just break the game, but that's later.
And that brings up my next point is, if you are going to go back and play Sonic 1, play the re-release of it so that you have Spin Dash.
That's what I was going to say.
Nature.
And if you have, and again, for most of the levels, it doesn't matter because the levels suck to move through a Sonic, but for the ones like a Green Hill or a Spring Hill, or Spring Yard, whatever it is, or a Starlight Zone, like where you can go a little faster, the Spin Dash is just... And not only that, quite frankly, it's a lot easier to kill most enemies with a Spin Dash instead of having to jump on them, because you don't know. So you have more control over that, piece as well. So, all in all, I would say, if you're going to play this game, play the re-release with the spin dash. I mean, if you want to dick around with Tails or Knuckles, fine. You're not going to have much fun with it because they're super easy to beat if you can fly through the whole fucking thing.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. So play it as Sonic. There's not much else I want to say. I do want to touch on the boss battles a little bit more because I feel like the boss battles in this were basic, but I liked them. Like, I like the fact that it's and we haven't even really talked about him, Dr. Robotnik, who later becomes known as Eggman for some reason, because I think that's what they call him in Japan. He is like
an egg.
Yeah, well, he was kind of like, so like, the more you play this game, the more you see how much they kind of ripped off of Nintendo, because, you've got obviously the Mario comparisons. I've got what I feel are kind of Metroid comparisons with the exploration. And then you've got Mega Man comparisons, because Dr. Robotnik is basically just like the redheaded stepchild brother of Dr. Wily from the Mega Man games, where he builds evil robots. And that's literally all Robotnik does. And his name is Robotnik, and you can't get much more unoriginal than a name like Robotnik, even if you do take out the C in the name Robotnik. Like, it shouldn't work, but I love Dr. Robotnik. I love that little thing he flies around in. Like, that's his, like, mode of... it's like his Segway, right? Where that's how he gets around.
And usually it's the thing that he just stays in, and it becomes a part of a different machine, too.
Exactly.
Later on.
And in this game, you're right, though. So basically, but for the most part, it just looks like his little... I don't even know what it's called. It's funny. I actually have a Lego set of that flying machine, like, that I built out of Lego. It's
nice.
Really cool. But like, he'll have accessories for it, like in the first level, in the first world, zone or whatever. He's got the ball and chain, the pendulum, yeah. And the second one, he's like dropping fire down on the platforms underneath you. And the third one, he's pulling up blocks, so you have to like watch where you're jumping. But again, it looks like his machine. Now, in later ones, he is all kitted out. It's like when Iron Man gets into the Hulkbuster, and all of a sudden he's, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But in this first one, it's the basic form. You got to hit, I think 7 hits kills him. Well, doesn't kill him. It just blows up his ship. He gets all red-faced and then flies away. And that's basically him until the very end. And then, because you've got the, what's called Final Zone, but it's basically Act 4 of Scrap Brain Zone, I think it's called.
Yep.
And that one's not totally different. You still got to hit Robotnik, but he's hanging out outside of his little machine, and he is just like in these like pneumatic like squashing tubes, and you got to hit him as he pops up and down, and so it takes a little more. But for the most part, I don't mind. I don't hate these boss battles. Like, I think that's probably one of the things that and the soundtrack are like in the plus column for this game without much else other than Green Hill Zone.
They're very simple. They stick to the formula. You don't have to like try to figure out a whole new mechanic. You just go, I got to dodge with this thing and then jump into him.
No. And then other than aesthetics, for the most part, they don't really change much with the later games. They stick to that because it worked, right?
Yep.
There's a lot of things. And again, that's why I feel bad shitting on this game, because they do take that feedback and make better games from this, but it just makes it that much harder to go back and play this. But again, the boss battles, the soundtrack, Green Hill Zone as a whole, that's like one level which they have brought back in future Sonic games. That's the one zone where you could stick it in any Sonic game and it would flow just as well as any of the other ones.
Yep.
The rest of them can eat a dick as far as I'm concerned. So, all right, man. Before we kind of move on to games that might scratch the itch or talk about pop culture in the day, any closing thoughts for you on this game?
I want to talk about briefly the developer trolls that are in the level designs of the game.
Oh, okay.
There's often times where you're just running through and you're needing to do your fast Sonic stuff, and they'll set up a bounce pad to send you right back where you came from.
Yep.
Stuff like that. So you need to be careful of those. And I just think that's developers having fun a little bit.
That's what I was gonna say. Do you think that was because I talked about that? Like, there's certain things that pop up and kill you, and I'm like, that's bullshit. But is it them trolling? I mean, if it's trolling me, that's still a dick move, right? I mean,
I'm specifically talking not things that'll kill you, but like the spring pads that like
I know
send you right back.
Act 3 of Green Hill Zone has one of those.
Yeah.
Where like, but honestly, you know what it helped me do? It helped me back up, and I took it as a sign. Like, it brought me back up, and I saw this floating platform when I went back up and got like an extra life.
Yeah.
So I'm like, joke's on you, troll devs, because I took another path. Because again, that's what I think this does better than Mario is it encourages level exploration with the longer time limit and the rewards for going out of your way to find hidden stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not that Mario doesn't do that. Yeah,
and it also has like a top, a vertical aspect to their levels too, where Mario really doesn't that much. At least early on.
It's one or the other. It's one or the other, though, right?
Yeah, where Sonic is just like, yep, we have it's all here. So
it's an entire script, and some level. I mean, I will say some of the levels in Sonic are way longer than others. Some are super short to get through. The longer ones, again, like, and I've never really run out of time unless I was doing it on purpose for some reason. There's still a lot you can explore, and like you're like, oh, I wonder if I go back up here to the beginning of the level, I saw something floating there. Let me just jump. Oh, yep, there's a ring box, or let me just jump. Oh, there's a spring hidden in that tree. Let's see what that takes me to. And all of a sudden, you're like, oh, rings. Oh, and then there's a platform coming in from the side. Let's land on that and take this path this time.
That's where I say there's good level design, game design, because you get rewarded for exploring.
But I will say, I feel like for the most part, the only levels that have that level of no pun intended, level of exploration are the fun Sonic levels that you can go fast in.
Yeah, 100%.
You know what I mean? Because you're going so fast that like it's not going to be a linear path. You're going to miss that stuff. You want to go replay those levels. You're not going to. I never want to replay Marble, because Marvin Gardens is in Sonic 3, really original, and it looks just like this. Go figure. But Marble Garden Zone, like there's like a couple of paths, but they all suck. Like they're not fun to go through.
Nope.
So, like half of that level is just waiting for lava to like you're on a platform and the lava lifts you. Like that's God. It's one thing I love about Sonic games. It's waiting around doing fuck all. Let me tell you what. You know what I mean? Like, come on. So anyway, you know how I feel about this game. Derek, let me ask you. In 2024, as we're recording this podcast, does this game, in your opinion, hold up?
No, but only because they outdid themselves with future games.
Okay, and that is absolutely fair. In 2024, with all of the other titles that have been made since, is it worth going back to this one? I'd say absolutely not, in my opinion.
I'd say if you've never played a Sonic game, go play the first one and play through them.
Yeah.
And then, other than that, no. Like, if you played a Sonic game, the newer games definitely spoil you in things and abilities that they give you. Which I think they did a good job in that sense of, like, never in a Sonic game did I feel they took away any abilities that you have come to love. They've always improved upon or added to.
Yes, I 100% agree. Now, we've talked about Sonic Mania before, and again, if you've never played it, fucking go find it. It's on every major platform. Good. Incredible. It's usually less than $20 these days.
Yeah, it's like always on sale too.
Yeah, and it's so good because what they do is they kind of, it's like almost like most of it's like a greatest hits. They'll bring back all the best levels from all the previous Sonic games, but it's like an alternate timeline Sonic basically, where like you have to like go back to the beginning and then like chase down Robotnik through time. But then there's a couple of original levels, which again, they're very well designed. But it's really like just Sonic's greatest hits. So I would agree, like go play them from the beginning if you've never played a Sonic game. But if you happen to play Sonic 2 or Sonic 3 first, don't even bother with this one. Unless you're curious, like, to see where it started, you're not going to get much out of it that you can't get from the other Sonic games, in my opinion.
And I will say that the 2D Sonic games are vastly different than the 3D Sonic games. I would say that they're completely on their own spectrum. Yeah.
The only thing they have in common is a guy named Sonic who happens to run fast sometimes. That's basically it. Now, there is a game that came out not too long ago that was supposed to be, once again, kind of competing with Mario in the new Super Mario Brothers realm. Have you played Sonic All-Stars?
I have not.
I think it's what it's called, right? Sonic All-Stars?
I'm not sure, to be honest. That's the one that is like, you can play with 4 people at the same time.
Yes.
And
yep, and I'm looking it up.
I have not. I did see that, and I don't know, it didn't look like a Sonic game to me.
I tell you what, man, it's weird playing with like co-op people locally, but it's not called, what the fuck is it called? It's not Sonic All-Stars, because that's the racing game.
I was gonna say that is the racing game, huh?
Yeah. Oh god, that's gonna drive me crazy. So Superstars, there it is, Sonic Superstars.
I can see why you messed that up.
Yeah. So anyway, I tell you what, man, it's a lot of fun. Because you can, what's cool about it is that you can play as like 4 or 5 different characters.
Yeah.
And they all feel different to play as. So you can, and the levels are big enough to where you can navigate them in different ways. So like Knuckles, obviously, he can do this wall climb and the glide and all that stuff. So there's certain parts of the level that like reward you for picking Knuckles to go find secrets. It has a lot of great going for it. The only thing I would say is that it kind of gets a little samey after a while. Like the levels look different, but they don't really play different for the most part. It's that kind of that cartoony 3D graphics, which again, they were trying to basically copy New Super Mario Brothers. It's not bad. It plays like a 2D Sonic game. So like but with depth. So I would absolutely recommend giving it a shot. It's worth putting a couple of hours into, especially if you can get it. That's one that, again, like usually goes on sale. So, all right. Speaking of checking other games out, Derek, we've got a brand new segment we're calling Scratching the Itch. So we're going to start on the show recommending games from modern times. And by modern, I mean like from the last 10 or 15 years. That you could play now and feel like you're, getting that same feeling that you got when you played one of these older games. Okay. So this week is the perfect one because there is a game that was literally created initially as a Sonic the Hedgehog fan game that evolved into its own thing back in 2014. It's a 2D platformer called Freedom Planet. Have you ever heard of that game?
I have heard of that game, but I have not played it.
So I played it and I beat it. It came out in 2014. I probably got it in 2019 on my PlayStation 4. So you can get it on currently get it on Windows, Mac, PC. PC is Windows, PS4, and Nintendo Switch. And they've actually got a sequel out now as well, which I have not played, so I cannot recommend it one way or the other. Freedom Planet 2. Anyway, it is a platforming video game starring 3 anthropomorphic animals. We've got the dragon girl named Lilac, a wildcat named Carol, and a basset hound named Mila. What I love about it is it's got that kind of momentum-based controls where you can pick up speed running through a level, and it's got the loops, it's got the jumping, like Sonic the platforming. It's got as much polish as Sonic Mania or Sonic 3 and Sonic and Knuckles does. There's a few differences, like, for example, you don't have rings, you have a health bar, but the bosses and you have, like, some more combat abilities. But for the most part, like, running through a level feels very much like running through a well-designed Sonic level. So if that's what you love about Sonic, Freedom Planet is an amazing game to check out, usually very cheap. I think I got mine for $5 or $10 when it was on sale, and that was 5 years ago, so you'll probably see those sales again. But anyway, check it out. Let me know your thoughts. In fact, text me your thoughts. Feel free, because you can text now on this podcast. Or, Derek, in your case, just actually text me if you end up checking it out. Awesome. All right, man. So with that being said, I still haven't come up with a name for this last segment we cover here, but we essentially like to talk about what was going on in the world of pop culture the month and year that this game came out, which was, in this case, June of 1991. I would have been 3.5 years old. Not quite 4, and I guess you would have been like 2.5-ish. So, not really contributing.
I would be almost 3 because I was born in July.
3. So of 1988.
88. Yep.
Yes, and I was November of 87. So yeah, there's less than a year between us here. You think?
Yep.
Anyway, all right. So we start with music here, and again, we were really contributing to society back then. So this is going to bring back some real nostalgia for us, I bet. So Paula Abdul's Rush. Yeah, I knew as soon as I said Paula Abdul, you were listening.
Oh, you know me.
Initially released in May of 1991, but topped the charts in June. A music video featuring Keanu Reeves was very popular and played frequently on MTV, which, for those who don't remember, stood for music television. So, yeah, pretty exciting. Now, this one may be a little more in your wheelhouse. We never really talked music, honestly, other than our early 2000s emo phase that you went through and I tried to go through. But Guns N' Roses.
Dan. First of all, it's not a phase.
That's fair. I just wish my lawn was emo so that it would cut itself. Anyway, sorry. Guns N' Roses, Use Your Illusions tour. Were you a Guns N' Roses fan ever? Did you ever?
I like them. I'm not super into them.
Now, a former guest on the podcast, Ryan, who currently hosts the Blast Radius podcast, huge Guns N' Roses fan, and so I'm sure he would absolutely have told me everything about this tour. But in 1991, June, they embarked on their Use Your Illusion World Tour, one of the longest concert tours in rock history, and supported their upcoming Use Your Illusion and Use Your Illusion 2 albums, then was famous for its scale and the dramatic performances. So apparently a big deal, and if you're a GNR fan, you already know this. For those of you who don't, now you do. In the world of film, and in the world of cinema, as it were, got a couple of movies that came out in June of 91 that I actually personally love. First one, Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, starring Kevin Costner. Did you ever see that film?
I have not. Sorry.
Did you ever see Robin Hood Men in Tights?
Yes.
That parodies this movie.
Okay.
So it's kind of like, for me, I saw Scary Movie and then I went and watched Scream and I wasn't scared by it because I was expecting everything from Scary Movie. That's basically what's going to happen if you go back and watch this movie. Fantastic film starring Kevin Costner, Morgan Freeman, and Alan Rickman. So, I mean, he can't do any better. This is the film, other than maybe Die Hard, that got Alan Rickman like top billing going forward. Like, he was a well-known guy. He was a made man after this, I think. Also brought out one of my favorite songs ever, Everything I Do It For You by Bryan Adams, was on the soundtrack. Huge Bryan Adams fan here, I'm not gonna lie. So 1991, June 14th, actually, that film came out. Also coming out in June, the week prior, June 7th, City Slickers, starring Billy Crystal and Daniel Stern. Did you ever see that movie?
No, I'm so sorry.
It's a great movie. It's got Jack Palance in it. Remember him from Batman as Carl Grissom, the mob boss? He's a very famous actor, really big in the 60s for like old Western movies. And so he basically plays like an old man version of those characters. Hilarious movie. Highly recommend it. Never saw City Slickers 2, but the first one, basically about these middle-aged white dudes that want to like get some adventure back in their lives. So they book like a dude ranch trip. It's like a guy's outing kind of deal, and it just goes awry, basically. So
gotcha.
City Slickers, highly recommend it. It was a box office success for obvious reasons. Now, in the world of television, the only big thing of note that I can see is we had the premiere, the national syndicated premiere of a little show called The Jerry Springer Show.
Oh.
That's right, R.I.P. Jerry. Now, the show started initially, you may recall, as just a regular talk show, right? Political focus, maybe just kind of softball guests, and then obviously shifted to a much more sensational, controversial format that it became known for, which to me peaked in Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me, when Dr. Evil confronted his son Scott.
Yep.
And then, of course, you had the spinoff with Steve, which is the Steve show still going on?
I have no idea.
I don't know, man. I don't pay attention to that stuff anymore. Anyway, Jerry Springer, big, it was the show you weren't supposed to watch, but when you stayed home sick from school and they thought you were watching Price is Right, you were watching the Jerry Springer Show. All right, we're going to wrap up this part with one of your favorite things of all time, sports.
Oh, you know me, big sports guy. Go sports.
Well, here we go. I got some easy ones for you here. So in the world of basketball, the Chicago Bulls, led by Michael Jordan, won their first NBA championship in 1991 in June.
That's kind of a cool fact. Honestly.
That's pretty cool, right? See, everyone knows Michael Jordan. I know Michael Jordan. So there you go. And they beat the Lakers, which, again, that's kind of a big deal, too. Yeah. Now, less of an event, we have the French Open with Jim Courier winning the men's singles French Open. So that's tennis, in case you were curious.
I'm not that disconnected.
Well, I mean, I am. I don't know what it is. I thought it was golf until I had to read further into the notes that I wrote. So, yeah, that's how much I know about tennis. In fact, Derek, I got a dad joke. Ask me how I feel about tennis.
How do you feel about tennis?
I go back and forth. Yeah, that's right. All right, man. Well, listen, it is awful. No, I will absolutely give you that. Dude, this was fun. I appreciate you coming in clutch on this and kind of filling in last minute and talking Sonic with me, because this was really fun.
Hey, man, I am down to talk about old games anytime, any day of the week.
I tell you what, I'll have to fight, I'll have to wrestle you away from Lou, or maybe get the three of us on again. But if there's any games you specifically want to cover with me, shoot me a text, and we'll make it happen.
I mean, you already talked about one, but that's my fault. I couldn't make it on that one.
What, the Turtles game? Yeah, I tried, and then ended up getting.
You did try.
I did. I texted you, and then now thankfully my wife came in and we talked about the Zuminis game on the PC, and then Lou came back for the next week. But anyway, yeah, we'll get you back on. And you listening again, don't forget, as I said, text us if there's certain games you want us to cover. I would love to cover games that listeners want to hear about. So shoot us a text. Again, the link to be able to do that will be in the description. It's very easy to do. But with that, man, anything else you want to touch on? Everything good in your life overall?
Yeah, man, can't complain. Just waiting for the next big game,
All right, man. Well, listen, it'll be here before you know it, and we'll be back next week. Hopefully, Lou feeling better. If not, I may get you back on again. We'll find another game to talk about. But
sounds good to me.
Either way, man, I appreciate you coming on, and to you listening, guys, thank you so much. It's been a big shift. This is episode 8, guys. Of the new format. Obviously, we're still on the same feed as Generation S, and at this point, I'm not changing it. I want you to be able to go back and listen to all the old episodes about the 90s, and many of which you were on, Derek. You can attest they were a ton of fun, and so we're just trying this now. So anyway, if you know anyone that would like to listen to another retro gaming podcast that maybe doesn't suck as much as some other, I'm biased. I think it's okay. It sounds better than other ones for sure, in my opinion. Have them check it out. I did a search. I typed in backwards compatible podcast on the Goog, and we showed up. So it'll show up if you type in backwards compatible podcast. So also make sure you check this out on YouTube. We are putting out weekly content, usually Power Rangers centric at this point, but it could be anything 90s and early 2000s related. In fact, I definitely want to get back into doing some more video game stuff on there as well.
Yeah, especially now that you're specifically talking about video games.
Yeah. I need to get back to recording like game streams and stuff. I absolutely will do that, but I just got to get the time, man. I'm so busy with life.
I feel that. I feel that.
But at least I get to do this every week. This is still a ton of fun, and for the most part, I think I've been going for almost 2 years now, which is wild to think about. All right, thank you guys for listening. Really appreciate it as always, and we'll talk to you soon.
Goodbye.